So let's talk about Nepal. On March 5th, 2026, the country is heading to the polls. But here's the thing. This is not just your regular run-of-the-mill election. No, this one was born directly out of protest, following a massive political reset. So what's really at stake here? Let's dive in and break it all down.
Okay, so how did we even get here, and so fast? Well, it all kicked off back in September 2025. A huge youth movement just erupted across the country. And the pressure was so intense, that by the end of that same month, the entire parliament was dissolved. It's that decision that directly triggered the snap election. It's just a wild example of how powerful street protests can be, leading straight to the ballot box. And that's exactly what this is, an election literally born from protest. So to really get what's driving this vote, we've got to look at what was driving those demonstrations in the first place. Yeah, this movement wasn't just some random thing that popped up overnight. Think of it more like a volcano of public frustration that had been building up for years and years. And when it finally blew, it was powerful enough to force a complete political reset. So, what were the demands that were so powerful they brought down a government? Well, when you look at the core issues, you see it wasn't just one thing. It was this deep, deep frustration over rampant corruption and just a total lack of faith in the government's ability to, govern. The anger over restrictions on social media was a real flashpoint, especially for a young, super connected generation who saw it as a blatant attempt to shut them up. These weren't just minor complaints, they were fundamental challenges to the entire system. All right, so with the old parliament out of the picture, the focus shifts from the streets to the campaign trail. The whole country is now getting the electoral field ready for this massive vote. And the scale we're talking about here is just immense. We're talking about over 18.9 million citizens registered to vote. Every single one of them has the power to answer the issues that fueled those protests. It's a huge democratic force just waiting to make its voice heard. So the official machinery is all geared up and ready to go. The Election Commission has the schedule completely locked down. But, and this is a big but, there's a major point of tension here. While the system is ready, a lot of the established political parties seem to be dragging their feet. They still haven't published clear manifestos, which kind of suggests they're struggling to figure out their vision in this completely new political landscape. And this sets up the absolute central conflict of this entire election. Old players, new demands. It's basically a head-on collision between the political establishment and a fired-up electorate that is asking for something totally different. And you can see that division so clearly right here. On one side, you have the old parties, and they seem to be totally focused inward, on just protecting their own power. But on the other side, you've got young voters who are looking outward. They're demanding real, tangible results. Social justice, jobs, an end to corruption, and a government that actually works for them. It's like they're living in two completely different worlds. So it all boils down to this one simple question for every single voter. Do you give the old leadership another chance? Or is it finally time to bring in new power, a new way of doing things altogether? That is the fundamental choice that is going to shape Nepal's next government. At the end of the day, the power rests with the people. And as we get into this final section, the voters' verdict, there are some really strong signs that the electorate is coming at this with a totally new mindset. And you can feel that shift in attitude in this quote right here. There's this growing understanding that just swapping one leader for another, that's not enough. Real change comes from substance, from policies that actually work, and from a government that performs. It's a huge move away from personality politics and towards a laser focus on results. And what that's led to is a call for a new, much more thoughtful way of choosing leaders. So instead of just voting along old party lines, voters are being pushed to really analyze candidates based on three key things. First, what's their actual program? Second, do they have a realistic roadmap to make it happen? And third, do they have the leadership skills to actually see it through? And so that leaves us with the one defining question. Will this election actually change Nepal's future? You've got an energized youth movement, crystal clear demands for reform, and a much more critical electorate. This is way more than just another political contest. It's a potential turning point for the entire nation, and you can be sure the world will be watching to see which path Nepal chooses to take.